Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of Robert Has Learned His Lesson and Will Never Make Videos About Guitar Hero Again. Today we are talking about the latest studio album from Sulphur Aeon, entitled 7 Crowns and 7 Seals. This is the fourth full-length studio album from this German atmospheric blackened death metal crew who, over the course of the past decade, have been responsible for some seriously brutal, bloodthirsty, dense, absurd, Lovecraftian and Cthulhian extreme metal madness and manicy. I first came to know them back in 2013 with the release of their debut album, Swallowed by the Ocean's Tide, which I think I reviewed on like a fucking Tumblr blog way back in the day, predating even the shittiest years of the metal meltdown. And I've since been paying close attention to Sulphur Aeon and have thus observed that these guys have gotten better and better and better with each record. With 2018's The Scythe of Cosmic Chaos being the crown jewel in their discography. Everyone else was simply nominated for the Oscar, but that album fucking won it. 5 years later, and we now have 7 Crowns and 7 Seals, which, right off the bat, offers us most of what we've come to know and want and love and expect and be terrified of from Sulphur Aeon. It's dark and weird and twisted and very immersive. It has a slew of brutal progressions and dark, murky textures that would not be out of place on the aforementioned Scythe of Cosmic Chaos. Simultaneously, though, this is a more dramatic and expansive record from Sulphur Aeon. For one, the tension, the drama, the atmosphere is so thick here you could cut it with a knife. There are an almost endless amount of mid-pace and slow-pace, grueling sections and ominous passages with churning guitars and chant-like vocals and screeching, soaring, extreme metal gutturals. The guitar work is a little bit more epic, a little bit more dynamic. There's more melodic songcraft and songwriting all around here. This album is also more abstract, more ritualistic. It has stronger connections to occult-like vibes and Lovecraftian literature and monsters. Put very simply, this really does sound like some hellish being brought to life, wreaking havoc on all who dare stand in front of it. Ironically, as a consequence of this approach, I don't think this record is as bloodthirsty or as immediate as previous albums, but again, I feel it makes up for that by being a more intelligent and by being a more immersive record. The record opens with the double whammy of Somber Tidings and Hammer from the Howling Void. After some more subdued, atmospheric, epic guitar leads, transitioning into some static, we are met face first with an absolute barrage of towering cosmic blackened death metal. The classic immolation and behemoth-esque shades and grooves and vibes that Sulphur Aeon so visibly took inspiration from way back on their debut album remain semi-intact here, if perhaps launched into the stratosphere, into the next dimension. It's thick and burly with an almost stew-like consistency and feel. I mean, it just throws so many guitars at you. It throws so many murky, dark vocal passages at you. Hammer from the Howling Void is a pretty accurate title, to say the least, because that's genuinely what this fucking thing sounds like. I especially like the very spacious, droning, almost meditative noise and static at the very end, kind of giving you a moment to breathe and settle after all that madness, which then transitions into Usurper of the Earth and Sea, which I would say is where the record starts to get really immersive and really cinematic. You have these slower, chunkier sections filled with all these weird dissonant textures and all these weird eerie sounds. Lots of agonizing grunts and screams contrasted with some really interesting and dynamic melodic guitar work that kind of floats on top of some more technical grooves. Love how as we grow closer to the end too, there's some more prominent melodic death metal, melodic black metal riffage here. It makes this thing sound absolutely massive while also bringing in a little bit of necessary color and light. It's still bleak, but it's not a total fucking hellish bummer. Then you have The Yearning Abyss Devours Us, definitely one of the most agonizing and cutthroat cuts on the record, leaning very heavily into classic black metal and death metal territory simultaneously. It's aggressive, it's brutal. There are also these very manic, unorthodox, and genuinely terrifying chant-like, spoken word-esque vocals. It quite literally sounds like a preacher gone mad. Further garnished with some orchestral outbursts and some really righteous fucking grooves, this is perhaps my favorite cut on the record, definitely one of the most cathartic. Though a close runner-up would be the album's closing number, Beneath the Ziggurats, an absolute mammoth of epic blackened death metal, clocking in just over 9 minutes. I love some of the more punishing percussive beatdowns here. I love some of the screaming, wailing vocal harmonies. I love how massive it is. Perhaps a tad fatty and bloated, like I personally could have maybe found a way to trim 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes-ish off of this bad boy, but nonetheless a great way to close this whole thing out. I'm feeling a solid 4 to 5 on this bad boy. I think this is great. I love how Sulphur Aeon have been able to kind of like expand and experiment without detracting too much from what has previously made them so successful. This is their most ambitious record to date. It's their most creative record to date. It's probably not their most brutal. Like if you're just looking for a full-on blast of like dark, blackened death metal brutality, you're probably best off sticking with their other albums. But in general, I can't picture anyone who has previously loved Sulphur Aeon having an issue with this record. In fact, just based on some of the reactions I've seen so far from other corners of the YouTube metalverse and from, my own Discord, I think it's fair to say that if you love extreme metal and just really dark, fucked up, twisted shit, this is probably going to be one of your favorite records of the year. I actually think this does a better job at kind of immersing you in just absolute fucked up Lovecraftian, Cthulhian metal nonsense than the last Blut aus Nord record, which, again, I liked. For some reason, people think I fucking hated that record, but whatever. Love the production. Everyone sounds awesome. Everyone sounds totally committed and dedicated to this. I don't really have much more to say. It's just a great fucking record. 4 to 5. Definitely check this bad boy out. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Look, more videos here. Check us out on the social media. Pick up some merch on the Redbubble. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.